All right. Let's try this again. NPC story. This is two stories. I'll do the first one with, I think, a classic example of legit NPC behavior. This guy came in to get something. I said, hey, what are you looking for today? And he responded with like, yeah, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it is. What are you looking for today? And I asked him 7 times in a row what he was looking for today. And during this time, the reason why I know it was 7 is because I was starting to become really conscious that about 1/3 of everyone I talk to needs me to repeat what I'm saying 1 to 3 times, typically twice. I started counting 2 repetitions is actually 1, because some people break down, what they're looking for or whatever they intend to do into sections. Like, there's 4 of us. Okay, there's 4 of you? Yeah, for the 11 o'clock movie. The 11 o'clock movie is Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, that's kind of like 1. Like, he's trying to, they don't, but if you ask somebody, what movie are you looking for? What movie do you want to see? What movie you've come to see? And you have to ask them 7 times in a row and then not get answered. Like, when I reached 7 was when I would just say, like, hey, listen, this is what I said to this guy. The first person that did it, I could tell they were just kind of scatterbrained. So they don't really count. But the second time it happened, like, this guy seemed like pretty together. He was articulate, well-dressed, seemed to have money, seemed to be successful, seemed like had a good personality. Because the thing was, every time I'd ask him a question, he would say something more about the day, like, oh, it might be a great day to work on the yard. Like, he was being, doing small talk. He seemed like he was focusing on small talk. So when I finally asked him the 7th time, and he still didn't respond. He responded with something else about, like, tomorrow it might rain or something. I said, listen, I don't mean to be rude, and I'm really just curious. And if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. But I've asked you the same question 7 times in a row, and you haven't answered me. So what I really want to know is, what are you hearing when I'm speaking to you? And he kind of thought about it for a moment, and then he answered the question. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate answering the question, but and you don't have to answer this, but I did ask you what you're hearing. What do you hear when I'm asking you this question? And he's like, he thought about it. He's like, I thought you're saying the same stuff I was saying, like small talk. Like, it is a beautiful day. Man, it's going to be a hot one. Well, it sure be nice to have some rain. Well, I hope we get some snow in the mountains. Things like that. But that's hardcore NPC-ness. Like, when you have to repeat yourself 5 to 7 times, the exact same thing, like, without any variation of the words or change in tone of voice. I've had people tell me to modulate my tone of voice. If you change your tone of voice, they think a new subject has been brought up, even if you've asked the same question 4 times. And I could tell that this guy suddenly started paying attention to me when I said, like, I don't want to upset you, but I could tell he's starting to pay attention to me then. And I remember when this first started hitting my radar. So that's that story, the 7 times repetition story. But when this first started hitting my radar, was this guy telling a story about he wanted to make a leather saddle for riding horses. And he'd been looking for a place. He just moved to town. He'd been looking for a place, like, for as long as he could remember. But the thing is, like, at that time, I used to go to a leather shop, and they taught the classes he was looking for. And so every time he'd pause in the story about his desire to make a leather saddle, I would say, yeah, there's a place called Oregon Leather, and they do saddle classes. Then you'd pause again, and I'm like, I've been on there. It's like in a loft, actually, above their main business. And you go up there, and, like, I describe the place. I'm like, it's like, smells like wooden rafters, and there's all this fresh leather everywhere, and everyone's sitting at their workbenches. And at the end of all this, he had heard nothing that I'd said. And in that case, I think that's just about, like, he's telling a story that he's told a million times before as kind of like an icebreaker. It's like a conversational piece, like something you put on your table in your living room, so people come up and say, like, oh, where did you get the cow skull? And you could tell about your visit to Arizona or whatever. So, but still, like, he got super mad at me too, because when he finally realized I'd been telling him the name of this place all this time, he's like, okay, well, tell me the name. I'm like, well, I don't know that you're gonna be able to hear me. I was being a jerk. Well, I thought he was being rude. I'm like, I could say the name again, but I don't know that that's gonna mean you're gonna hear the name. I've been saying it over and over again, so I might say it 5 more times. I don't know that you could hear anything I'm saying. I mean, can you hear me? He got so pissed. All right, we're done. Done talking about NPCs.